Hey, how's it going? This may not work. Uh-oh. And that's not working. I just turned it down. Quiet, you. Sorry about that. I think I forgot to say last time, but please look at my signs. There's like an empty part with some, maybe you might see some little blue lines. I don't know how you draw cold air, and I don't really have that many colors anyway, but you needed to know that. Whoa. Oopsie. You may wonder why, if you have a tripod, why don't you use it? I don't know. I don't like the angle. Give me a minute here. I guess I can talk while I'm trying to do this. So, I felt really, like, I better hurry up and say this. I don't know what the big deadline is. Are you serious right now? Excuse me. I don't know if you can hear it. Usually, when people have their videos going, and there's some sort of noise or something outside, they'll be all, oh my gosh, let me turn it, there's sound, and I never hear anything, so I don't know how audible that was, but it's not outside, it's here in the room with me. Excuse me. Okay, let me adjust. So, what I wanted to talk about was not having whatever that is in my mouth. Well, that used to happen a lot. Okay, what I wanted to talk about is, like, yesterday I was talking about sandcastles, and they were representing in one way, like, returning to childhood and things that just made you happy and you just felt freely creative, and just like there was no like obstacles, and you weren't bothered by things being destroyed because who cares, I could just make a whole new one like right now. And there were waves involved because, at least when I was a kid, I went to the ocean beach and did sandcastles there, so the waves can come. I don't know if you know this, but sometimes they come faster. They call them sets, like when they arrive at the shore, and maybe there'll be like 2 or 3 rollers in one set or whatever, but there's a timing there, and sometimes they'll come one after the other really fast, and sometimes they'll take longer in between. But I was talking about a time when they come pretty quickly and you just have enough time to like dribble your creation into being and then like look at it for a second, and then next thing you know the wave just came and it's all gone, and just hurry up and start over again. You can do another one really quick before the wave comes, and that's like part of the game, and it's kind of fun. And I didn't really get mad at the destruction because I don't know, it just didn't bother me. Maybe it was just the availability, like just knowing I could just redo it instantly. But, metaphorically, you can do that with anything in life. Like if it's falling apart, remake it, redo it, redo its image another way. I forgot to do something with my hair before I started doing this. I see that it's very fuzzy. Oh well. Anyway, so I'm not sure if I was clear that was to be a metaphor for like the changing times, where like everything that you were maybe used to for your whole life is that right is not there anymore. That statue is not there anymore, and I think people didn't realize that they had such an attachment to the things, the statues that got taken down of like the Confederate generals. I'm not against that, because if you had to look at that every day in the South, as a black person or even an indigenous person, because they got treated just as badly in some situations as black people did. in the South in the past and also in the present, I think probably still. But anyway, you did I already go off track and lose my place? I think the point is that all the things that you're used to just start disappearing, and that's always been the case. Like everything has like an expiration date, but like the time between the sets of waves, time itself has felt for years now like it's just been speeding up and ramping up, and it's like you barely have time in between each event or sandcastle or loss of that sandcastle / institution. That, I mean, you just have enough time to clock it and to move on to the next thing. You can't really, like absorb it and examine it. You don't have time unless you completely remove yourself from like the wheel of events, I guess you could call it. But what's happening because of that is there's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of anger, there's a lot of resentment, because you're losing these things, and it's just kind of undoing you. It's like having a structural pillar pulled out from your foundation, and you're just shaky. You're just like, I don't know if I can support this. And so I imagine in a lot of different ways that could present as a lot of different types of anxiety problems. But the problem with that is things are going to change regardless, and I feel like the more you are aware of this and accepting of this, the more prepared you can be when something you think is never going to change all of a sudden just ain't there anymore. Like they've just consigned it to the trash heap, and it's just over, and you're still like stuck in the past, like but it's like you don't have time for but just file that. Look, you think about it later. You got things happening in front of you right now. And so I feel like that's what's happening, and it's ongoing. Like I feel like there's definitely a conclusion to all of this sort of like entropy happening in the world, but in the meantime it's gonna be like earth shaking. The earthquake is funny because that is like literally this foundation being shaken up, and it sounds like this one today in California was hard enough to like actually break stuff. So that's always that always gets your attention. I don't think anyone was like badly hurt. I'm pretty sure there was like sort of structural damage, but interesting that kind of thing is happening. and volcanoes and flooding and fire and you name it, like all the disasters are making an appearance. It's funny, there it's like the summertime nighttime comedian schedule where they do the Force 5 or whatever, and they sort of like took it upon themselves to still keep entertaining even if their shows are not playing, and that I appreciated that continuity. But why did I start talking about them? I have no idea now. Well, anyway, they talk about this sort of what's going on in society, like with all of the attitudes that people are having, and absurd funny leaders that are just like, how can you not laugh? I mean, really, like you can't just be all doom and gloom and at a certain point you gotta say, hey, you know what, I don't want to be treated like this by you people anymore. So it's kind of like some coming head to head. I see like goats and bulls smashing each other in the heads the way the bucks and the males do of this the horned males, the horny male species. Wow. And apparently the horny is a problem too. And I'm not talking about the horns on the head, like the unrequited is making people requite crazy. But all of the like not being able to get along on whatever level or dynamic you're talking about, there's a lot of friction in these, and people not wanting to give way, and that kind of tug of war, it just is tension, and it spreads, it ripples outward, and like there's no escaping from the stuff that's happening to everybody anymore. And I think that's part of the new landscape, and I think it's always been the case, but we just have not been able to sense it. It's like the other dimensions seem like they're, I don't know where anybody else puts them. I don't know where I think they are, except that, well, I have since learned, not yesterday, I learned this a while ago, but it's more like your other you in the other dimension is like practically on your lap. Like they're so close, it's like that. That's my understanding of the dimension. So, I mean, on the other side of it, it may be far away, but like at the portal, it's walking over the sill, right? I mean, I'm free walling. I don't know if that's true, but it feels right. But anyway, there's a lot of fear about a lot of things because of we don't know what the future holds. We take away the things we're used to. That makes everything look very different, right? So you kind of don't know where you're going. It's like the future doesn't start appearing until you start making steps into it. Like you have to go there and create it. And hi, no one asked you. And so I feel like that's where we are. And a lot of us have that living in the past thing where we're not willing or able to let go of something that is either gone or becoming gone. And if you don't know what I mean, like Radio Shack, that's gone. Bunch of places like that. Or it could be events. Like a lot of things are just becoming extinct, including species, I guess. But I don't know even if that's the case, because we're finding now that species that we have thought were gone for hundreds of years have just been stashed away somewhere where we couldn't get our greasy hands and dirt and pollution all over them, and they were allowed to have a resurgence. So that's I think cyclic thing. Anyway, there's just all these sort of clashing energies. I don't really know what else to call it right now, and it seems like a lot of unyielding forces meeting immovable objects, and it's not productive, but it just has to be, I think. I had a thought earlier about you do something, but you just have to keep doing it a bunch of times before you get it right. And it's not like it's a hobby. It's something that you absolutely have to do. It's, literally like a life or death thing. Like if you don't do it, health is going to be impacted. So this is not something, it's not a game. And so you have to just nose to the grindstone and learn how to do it. But under those circumstances, that's when you do it. So I feel like the thing that we're doing is disagreeing and then going toward each other and sort of maybe agreeing on one little tiny point out of 100 other things, and then it not being enough, and then sort of repulsing away from each other. But it's a process, I feel like, that you automatically are coming back, and maybe it's not the same pair of people or negotiators or whatever it is that the situation calls for, maybe just like whoever is nearby and capable, just someone is going to fill the role where the opposing sides meet and maybe stay opposing, or maybe concede a couple of points to one another and still repulse away. But I just feel like it's a thing that's going to keep happening over and over, there and back, there and back, there and back, until either it becomes clear that nothing will ever work, which I don't think is a thing, or some crack is going to happen somewhere and it's going to allow somebody or the other to make the concession and not feel like that they're have lost faith in some way, and so then the process can move forward. But I think it's necessary, partially because, my God, there's so many of us, like so many attitudes and events that are yet to be, have to like align and fall into place the right way for certain things to happen, including, I guess, us getting along as humans and as people in our countries and becoming more functional and less adversarial and transactional with like each other. Like, I swear, if you hear Americans talk, you'd think that some of us think that they can just walk up and own other people. Like, well, we used to do it, and you look like the kind that we had doing it, so I'm gonna have you do that. But the problem with that is, like, I'm gonna slap the shit out of you. Like, no, that is not gonna happen with me. I don't know anybody else that's gonna agree to it. Like, no. That right there, that might be one of those ones where, well, that's going to be a special agreement, but I don't think a lot of people are going to agree to that type of scenario. So that's just one avenue of many dimensions, universes that we got to work out. And I think we will. We seem to be headed in that direction. But like I said, what looks like all strife and trouble, and, well, it doesn't just look like it. There are, like, places and elements of true pain and tragedy, but there's also the opposite of those things. This is a polar existence that we live in. So you got you got the good, you got the bad, and you got everything in between. Yeah, I'm not going to sing the song. But you get the point. I mean, it's all there. We all have to, like, access it and each other and all of the stuff and be and do all of the things that make the world happen, because that's why we're here. It doesn't all work unless we're all here doing a thing. You know, but the thing about that is, some of us have a drive and know what they want to do, know what they are like. It's like they're good at it, so they gravitate to whatever that thing is, and then they automatically do it. And I'm just going to interrupt myself to say something like that, like a virtuosity, apparently, according to my mentor of sorts, Sterling Psychic Medium, when you have like a sort of innate skill that is like exceptional, you know, like surprising, like you can just do it by ear as a young child, and you shouldn't be that accomplished at that age. He says that comes from a series of lifetimes where that was something you did and you just gained skill at it, a mastery that you retain when you are born into your new incarnation. So, and I don't know what led me to there. Man, I hate it when that happens. Kind of feel like I'm going nuts. But, we do come here with skill sets that are good for something. Good for, like, the overall plan, the integrated plan that everybody plays a part in. I'm just going to leave it at that. I did take a couple of notes about some things that I wanted to go over. I want to see if I didn't already talk about it or if I still need to address it. So, oh boy. I wrote kind of a lot. What's my time? Ooh, my time is good. Maybe I'll just read it. I like reading it. Can you tell? Okay, hold on. I'm going to do it. I'm going to read it. Okay, like I said yesterday, I was talking about sand castles, right? And I always look for signs that mean stuff, and I forgot to look up if the sand has any kind of spiritual meaning, but I have a feeling it's going to be with me for a while. I can tell you off the top of my head, first about the sand. So yesterday I was thinking of sand castles, and I already talked about why that was and what it meant. Today I saw something that I've been trying to do and learn how to do, because I have sort of a prepper thing going, because who likes sitting in the dark when the power goes out, or who likes being cold when that happens? So I'm always thinking of things that you can do in the home, and I can't buy like every YouTube ad, like heater made by one guy that's 30 guys in different commercials, which makes you doubt the veracity of how good the product is. And also I don't have money again, so a project came on today, and it was the Crisco sand candle. I've tried to make the shortening candle before, and the directions they gave me neglected to say that you don't just put a wick in the Crisco, although that's what they said. It did not work for me. You put a dang taper candle down in the Crisco, and then the candle burns and the Crisco around it. It's a thing. It's a whole thing. I may link it. I don't know who's even interested in that kind of thing, but those are like a long-lasting candle. I mean, like, it can just go for days and days. It burns really slow and also gives out pretty much heat. Like, I don't know if people realize how effective candles are, because I don't like to run the heater that is in my apartment. It's like one of those wall things when you turn it on and it's like burnt hair for 45 minutes. So I have like a plug-in radiator heater, and I burn candles because I also don't like to run the lights. I'm a bat. But, so this project was the sand Crisco candle heater, emergency heater, and what it is a metal bucket and a copper band, which the sand and the copper both retain heat, and then the copper makes the heat last longer, so it already is like a long-lasting thing, and then it's even better. And it gets like really hot too. It's not safe to have like around like a curious pet or a small child. You would have to put it someplace away from those things. But it's pretty simple. You do with the Crisco, open it up, stick a taper candle down the middle of it, then you put a little sand in the bottom of your metal pail, like not even a big one, like a little bit bigger than a big can of Crisco, maybe 2-3 inches taller than that. So not a big bucket, right? But definitely it's got to be male. Look like his, or male, it has to be metal. Looked like his was what do you call that thing? Galvanized steel, like wash tub steel. It has like a blotchy pattern on it. So yeah, galvanized steel bucket. And they put like 2-3 inches in the bottom, put in the Crisco can, settled it and centered it, then filled up the sides around it with more sand. Oh, I guess somewhere in there you looped the copper band around the bottom of the can and then over the top, and I'll get to that in a second. But once you have, before you start filling the sides, after you've put in the bucket, I guess first you have to put in the sand, and then you got to seat the copper band, and then probably put more sand, and then put the Crisco can on top of there, because you'll have to, so it'll seat steadily. And then you fill up the sides, and you obviously have to keep adjusting it and keeping it straight and everything centered. But once you get the sand filled up there, and you can pack it in, and then you adjust where the band crosses over the wick, because I guess the key to operating the copper band and having it have that heat retention last longer thing, it's got to be as close to the candle wick as possible. So it looked like he had it about 3/4 of an inch away from the fire, from the wick, and that's it. Like, you fill it up to the top of the Crisco can with the sand inside the bucket, and that's it. You light the wick, and then you put it on like a trivet and put it away from anything that'll, catch fire, and that thing is just gonna go for like more than 24 hours. And who wouldn't want that? What a cheap heater. Although they did say that he should have a smoke detector and a carbon monoxide detector, but he also said that he's used them several times and had no problems with those. But I guess it's just safe, or at least to have some sort of ventilation. And so I love stuff like that, and that's like a great thing to know, I think, because especially, if storms are going to be getting so much worse because of climate change, stuff already gets knocked out, right? Like, we know that in just like what we would call a regular storm. So if the storms are intensifying, I think we really need to think of those things. So light and heat, I've always paying attention to like practical, inexpensive ways to do that. But when the refrigerator shuts off, well, I don't know, like, it's pretty cold. I would probably just put it all in a laundry basket and sit it outside on the porch. But you'd have to do something different when it's hot. But that's not the season we're in right now, so I'm not thinking about that. Now I'm just getting all sidetracked. Okay, so what else did I see? After that, I saw, I don't know, like 2 more things with sand, and then I didn't look up the spiritual significance. I'll put it in the information, or the description box under the video. Oh my goodness. Oh, and that reminds me, I don't ever remember to mention this, but I do put stuff in the community section if you care to look. I think I kind of have forgotten about it lately, but I'll remember, and there's stuff there to look at. So anyway, here, let me just read this thing. This is the wrong page. And so is that. What? Oh, I think I was putting the wrong date. No, I wasn't. Oh, here it is. Hi, I have to figure out how my notes work. Okay, here we go. I think this may be integration. I already talked about that. K something vid of... Oh. So, yeah. The integration. So, on Thanksgiving, I guess, Cenk Uygur from TYT and Hassan, I'm not sure the guy's last name, but he's all over YouTube, and he's another commentator on the left, and it turns out he's Cenk's nephew. And I guess Cenk does a Thanksgiving show all the time, but this year he did it and with Hassan, and Hassan's on the left. Cenk doesn't seem to be on the left. He was for a while, and now he seems to have a lot of scorn for the left. He was calling people dirt bags and scumbags and sounding like a Republican with all that name-calling crap. Although it does happen on the left, too, which is why so much of my feed that was normal for the past 6 years, I'm cutting out, because I could not stand to listen to Cenk after a while. he was just screaming and yelling, and he was always angry, and I did not agree with what he was saying. And now he's I just know that a long time ago I heard him say that he used to be a Republican, and I feel like he's sort of returning to form with that. But I also, like, don't really want to hear Anna anymore either, so it's kind of like they're the main hosts of the flagship channel on TYT, and I just unsubscribed from it because I just, mainly Jink is off-putting. So but that's the thing, he can, I mean, that guy, as far as I know, he's been a Muslim, a Christian, and now he's an atheist, and he was a Republican, and he was like, he went to the left, and he went left, and so far left, apparently he slid back into the right. It's been interesting to observe, but again, we're all on our own paths, right? So, this is like part of the integration. Like, he's finding his slot, as am I, as we all must be, I'm sure, because in this time where everything's like not how it used to be, and also we're finding out that things that we thought were one way were something completely else, and it's disappointing, and you feel betrayed, or it's good. But personally, I feel like I would rather just know, like, I don't like not being told stuff. I don't like not being told stuff for my own good, for my own safety. Can I just know about the thing and make the decision myself? I'm not a little child. I would appreciate that courtesy, you know? So, a lot of people are just having a lot to say about it and having a lot of feelings, like, the Jink and Hassan thing, where I mean, we're just all kind of integrating this experience and processing, like, well, how do I feel about this and what do I want to do about it? So that was just an example, or some examples of this might be integration that we're looking at. And then here was the other thing. Okay, so South Korea and other Trump imitators, or is Trump the subconscious soul of the right, their license to ill? I did see some stats that I now see could indeed be concerning for people new to being outnumbered by the opposition, parenthetically, the perceived opposition, being a race myself and a woman and a punk/rocker sensibility chick type person. I'm not sure which personal attribute earns the most ill will, but it's in there somewhere in that selection. What was undeniably evident in the stats, though, illustrated in colorful charts and graphs, is the colorization of American society. It does look as if mixed racing has exploded upon the population. Shh. Contextually, I know, but I'm not, or sorry, yeah, contextually, I know how that sounds. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, let me repeat it because I actually think it's kind of funny. But it does look as if mixed racing has exploded upon the population. Yeah, it's like a money shot joke. So yeah, never mind. I get the context of it. Let's just get a little hee out of it and move on, because I'm not doing that right now. The introduction of immigrants and the inevitable matches that occur literally are changing the complexion of the U.S., and as the blending further saturates, someone's gonna be the minority. And it looks like some fear-based regrets and how it's looked historically. I don't think anyone has to make accusations about what has and still is a prevailing attitude of a paler shade of folk here in America. Next to the current minorities of color, there seems to be a fear the same things come in their way. As if we descendants of slaves, probably for the most part, we don't want to reinstate any of that madness, regardless of who might find themselves in the way of the lash, for instance, or even that thing of separating spouses and children from those with spouses, like their parents, with zero consideration for the pain felt by those families who'd gone through so much, being forcibly removed from their lives, about all they had to call their own as owned people. So we have a history in this country. I think that wasn't clear now that I read it back, but when there were like the African slaves, there was no compunction at all separating spouses and children from those spouses, and so parents, like wherever they felt like that particular human, slave human, fit economically or whatever it was, like however it worked for them, they were like tokens and tools and barter. They were coin, they were chattel, they were property. They weren't like really people. I mean, they did all the people stuff, but just the dynamic of the situation was like you had people that took care of you and fed you, but they did that so that you could complete the work they wanted you to do, that again they weren't doing themselves. They didn't want to do that scut work themselves. And so however many years later, in the Trump presidency, the last one, what happened at the border? All these people fleeing violence from gangs and all other kinds of danger, cartels and stuff like that, trying to come here to the U.S. to have a better life, they run into the border and their children are taken away, God knows where, and God knows what's done to them. And believe me, something is being done to these kids that are disappeared. Like, why the hell else take them away and then not want to tell you where they are and what they're doing and act like you don't know? Hi, we have a problem with that, and it is pervasive. I don't think there's an area of society that's not touched by this perversion that we have for this human trafficking and mishandling other people with our literal hands in an intrusive way. Like, what the hell is wrong with us? That's not right. So that's not like it's the first time that's happened, and it seems like the people that happened to be in charge at the time that were doing that, the white people, have a propensity for doing this shit. And so understandably, as they see the complexion of the nation changing, as much as they want to say, we don't have to feel guilty for that past stuff. Really? Because you sure seem like you're aware of it, and maybe you do feel guilty. And, I don't know how you have the gall, white people, to say that say this, that you can't have your kids sitting there learning history about how the people came here from Europe and just said, I don't care if you're already living here, human beings and people with a full-on life and thousands of years of history and knowledge that they just brushed aside and didn't relate to, so they were savages and didn't know anything and had to be re-educated. And that, re-education is never, it's always force-fed, so it's not good. And, there's a bad history. It's just so disrespectful. They made so many promises to these people, and clearly the level of respect is evident when they broke like every freaking one, and they still do it today. I'm not going to read what all I wrote because I want to end this soon, and there's a lot of pages. I'm going to upload it to my website. I'll include the link if anyone's interested in reading it. But I just want to say, man, yeah, I get it. Or maybe I'll just continue reading. Uh, so yeah, they might be feeling a little fear about having to experience the pain felt by these families who've gone through so much, being forcibly removed from their lives, like the slaves had. They were removed from their land and their families there. They get here, they're not treated any better. They get a new family that they probably were just stuck to, because if you were already a family unit, apparently, according to the histories that I've read, they didn't care about letting you stay together. They were not. They were like, if your man fit some role, that's where they went. If the woman did something that was someone that people wanted, there she was gone. They just sent her, sold her, and that was it. And then, but the kids, though, we have this nasty thing where with the overhandling and the touching, the bad touching. So okay, okay. Then a hundo or 2 years later, okay, I talked about that with the migrants. There's little to suggest that the diminishing presence of white people is hardly going to change their status. Oh, I guess I could have left hardly out of there. But yeah, it doesn't seem like the diminishment of their numbers is going to change their status. Not immediately. So they can really calm down about that. I doubt... How about if I cross that T so I know what the hell that says? I doubt they'll be hunted for revenge or fun only by a minority of people. No pun intended when I wrote it, but kind of, yeah. So I want to be clear about what I just said. I doubt that the white people will be hunted for revenge or fun only by a minority. No pun intended. Because there always is going to be a minority of people that are going to act up and act out. So that's true no matter what race, color, gender, whatever you are. There's always a dangerous element to life. You're always like, could happen, or something could happen to you, bad. So it's not just that one thing, and that could like get you in trouble, like that you're like black or a woman or gay. It happens to everybody. That stuff happens to everybody. And that reminds me of something that I don't think I got to write down, but it has to do with this, and it's that I watched another interview, and it was a couple of Muslim guys talking about the Gaza war. And over the course of their conversation, these are young guys. They're like based this and whatever millennial or generation. I don't even know. I don't keep track of who says the language because I don't need to know their slang. I don't care. But anyway, it was definitely, I don't know, Gen Z slang. I don't, like I said, I don't know. But they were definitely using some slang of younger people, and they kind of debunked the notion that inequality is based on race, because I don't remember what they said word for word. I will try to find it and link that. But what came out in the conversation was that it happens to everyone. Like they were talking about in India, where everyone's brown, they still have the inequality, the financial, the wealth inequality situation, and that's well known for years. Like they have a notoriously bad peasant class. They shouldn't even have a peasant class. No place on this world should have a peasant class. But the reason why we don't is rich people, they hoard all the good stuff, and then they only, they'll stick us in toxic areas to live and not give a shit if it messes you up, and then But then you need health care, but they don't want to let you have it. So then you have to go. I hope we don't have to go back to like emergency room health care, because that messed up the economy. But in India, like, everyone's brown, right? For the most part, like, the native people of the land are all brown people. So you could make a specious argument that prejudice under those circumstances don't exist. Don't kid yourself. Like, I learned in the black community, I mean, look at me. I ain't black enough. Listen to me. I ain't black enough. I didn't grow up in a black neighborhood. I mean, I did when I was little, and I have black family, but I grew up in a white neighborhood. All of my friends are white. So, I'm just saying, like, there's prejudice in the black community, too. I remember being in the bathroom in high school, and these girls were talking some shit about me and calling me a cracker, which for years, like, especially when I was little, I was like, why are they calling me a cracker? Like, I did not get it for years. And then I finally, like, read it in some book. I was like, oh my God, really? Like, what can I do about it? I did decide at some point, not having to do with any points now, to be this me who I am. But yeah, back to my point, there is definitely prejudice in, like, any community of color or any community. We just do that shit. we're terrible people sometimes. Okay, let me get back to it. But it just seemed important to realize that if you're paying attention, something like racial differences is something that is encouraged by the wealthier classes, because they often control a lot of narratives, and control is their deal. Ads, like mind control in the government, sure, it was for other countries and for spying efforts. The intelligence work. Also to control the people. Like, we're no different any country than North Korea, except, well, we are different. We're nicer. We treat the people, our leaders treat generally us a whole hell of a lot better than North Korea's do to their own people. But unfortunately, another part of the struggle that's happening right now is there are a lot of leaders, world leaders, and then, like, a lot of just wealthy people that want to, like, control stuff, and those people kind of want to leave out everybody else. But everybody else is where all their income springs from. Like, we work in their companies, we buy their stuff, and I feel like we are missing the element of control that we have. But that will come. We'll get it. But yeah, I just thought it was important to recognize, like, they recognized it and then they sort of glossed over it and went back to, like, accepting the old ideas that, yeah, it is race that's the problem with wealth equality, but it's not. Conditioning, it's very much been done to us very much. Where was I? I'm not saying there won't be vocal ridicule and derision, or even stuff thrown at them. That may be the biggest shock, that no one's listening to them the way they had when the now minority were still the authority. I assume we won't have to be in fear of existing, or I assume they won't have to be in fear of existing while black or female or trans or whatever, to see what it's like to be automatically guilty upon sight when you are not, nor have you ever been, some kind of perp. It's like, that's a terrible feeling, but when you become the minority and you've, like, sort of inflicted that on other people, I feel like even if it's not happening, because there's history of your people, let's say, having done it to the other people, all of the other people, for so dang long. It's like they're waiting to be attacked, but I think the attacks are not going to come except for like a few malcontents. Because here's the thing: if people felt that strongly about, striking back on all that stuff, why didn't they already? Everyone has access to guns. We have access to the internet. There's all kinds of ways that we could cause problems for each other. But mainly the people that sort of are affected by things like automatic suspicion because of your skin and hair. Like I said, I feel like it's highly unlikely that black people are going to be the ones that are going to be all, let's enslave the other people now. Like, I don't think so. Listen, if that's what we wanted, if we wanted revenge like that, what was stopping us from doing it? Not much. So, moving on. Wait, wrong side. Okay, I'm saying, I can see, as now can you, the way a look at the changing reality of an increase of people of color directly affecting the makeup of society. I can see how that might be. I can see why that might be disturbing. I see why it sets off flights of fancy. I mean, I just did one. And fear. To me, this is irrational fear, because if the appetite for retaliation for slavery or even just reparations were there, it isn't that big and loud. I know it is there, but it's not that big and loud. Personally, if reparations are going to be going out, the indigenous of North America are ahead of the descendants of slaves, DOS, in this country, in my opinion. They had many more unrighted wrongs done against them than African Americans, in my opinion. Many of us live better lives as the one of us is still in the lower classes. The black people, I think, I live better lives generally. My opine, yes, biased too, because yes, I do claim a fraction of Choctaw heritage myself, and I know my quality of life and access to resources far exceeds that of some. Oh my. I just get to writing in such a hurry that I just leave whole chunks of the sentence off. Exceeds that of some that live on reservations, reserves, and on lands that the givers had little expectation for to be fruitful in advance. Like, they knew they were giving them bad land. Maybe a first instance of warehousing on these shores. Put the people we have no use for on land that's considered useless. Done and done. Now no one has to think about them again. I feel like that was the attitude. My imagination tried to run away with me again, but I won't be. This is real talk. I'm not going to let my imagination run away anymore. The U.S. has played the indigenous for fools, reneging on treaties and making other bad faith acts in the name of said faith, by the way. They tried to force the religion, and that would be the faith, but they did in bad faith. So, yeah, synonyms, people, one word doesn't have one meaning all the time. Could have several. Context is everything, too. For God's sake, don't say it in front of the white kids. It'll make them feel bad. Hi, what about all of us races having to sit and listen to all of it for generations, but haven't been like we haven't been affected by that? To feel the pain and injustice of having to be told this by white people like a taunt. I mean, I don't take it that way, but I think that's how white people think we're gonna take it, or that we do take it. Because seriously, I mean, most of us have been instructed, educated by white people for like centuries. So it is. I didn't like, and this is why it's. Well, let me just finish the sentence. When I was sitting there hearing it, I did understand the irony that here was this person saying, yeah, people that look like me, like, chained you up, took you from your home, beat you, burned you, abused you in every way possible, separated you from your family. Like, they have not treated us well here, the black people. And the they is the ruling authority, is the mainly white people. So, how do they think it felt for like the Latino kids and the black kids and the Chinese kids and the Japanese kids to sit there and hear how their own country, run by mostly white people, have treated them? And don't think they won't again. Like, are you listening right now? The transition team of the new president-elect, they don't sound very kind and giving and forgiving. They sound like they're out for revenge, and most of us are like, who are you? So it's like, how could you possibly want revenge on me? So, okay. Let me move on. God forbid we should have an emotion for the historical treatment of people of color and other oppressed communities that are also the other minority at the same time too. That makes no sense. Never has, and at this juncture, I say, fuck the upper hand. It does make me kind of angry in an abstract way. And the idea that some penalties need to be imposed. Like, not by me, but to hear this wheedling whine about kids that can't withstand the harshness of the history that culminated into today. Cry me us a river. Are you kidding me? Let me take a beat to just breathe so I can calmly say, oh my God, you wuss, suck it up. People like me have for centuries and still here. We still have to hear it, so nut up. Buttercup, snowflake, you're gonna be all right. How could you think that, like, oh my God, the little white kids, like, I'm sorry, but you say that, and then I think, I'm sorry, but I think of, what was that boy that shot all the people at the protest that was Rittenhouse? Yeah, that's who I think of when you say the fragile kids. They're so fragile, they're armed to the teeth. I mean, wow, subjective, but come on. So, am I done? I don't know. Hold on. Where was that wuss business? Oh, okay. Oh, I guess that was it. I guess I petered out, but you get my point. So, that also is integration, because those are things that we have to deal with. I mean, we haven't. Like I said, this shit's been going on for hundreds of years, and we haven't really done much of anything, except we're at this point now where, oh my God, they're going to replace us. And it's like, oh my God, get over yourself. We're here, you're queer, get over it. Thank you and good night.